Hello everyone, this is episode number 2 of my 2022 travel season, and it's also going to be a Tombstone video. I'm still in Clemson, South Carolina, and in my first video I made a quick stop at Death Valley, Clemson's Memorial Stadium, and found out that there was a lot of construction going on. So I moved a couple hundred yards up the hill to the old Calhoun Plantation Cemetery, which was once part of Vice President John C. Calhoun's Fort Hill Plantation. The Calhoun Cemetery is now part of Woodland Cemetery, and that's where we're going to continue our visit today and pay our respects to the legendary Clemson football coach, Frank Howard. Woodland Cemetery is located on a hill directly behind Memorial Stadium. As I said earlier, it was once part of Fort Hill Plantation that was owned by Vice President John C. Calhoun. The Calhoun family cemetery that we visited in my first video is separate from the current cemetery, but both are maintained by Clemson University. The current Woodland Cemetery was established in 1924 and is the final resting place of many prominent people connected to the university community. As we make our way down the hill, you can see just how close we are to the stadium. We are actually in the shadow of the south stands. And here is the grave of legendary coach Frank Howard. Frank James Howard was born on March 25, 1909 in Barlow Bend, Alabama. He later moved to Mobile, where he played football, baseball, and basketball at Murphy High School, where he served as the president of both the junior and senior class. After graduating high school, he attended the University of Alabama, where he was a starter on the Crimson Tide football team his junior and senior year. Howard was a member of the 1930 Crimson Tide team that was coached by Wallace Wade. That team defeated Washington State in the 1931 Rose Bowl. In 1931, Howard began his coaching career as the line coach here at Clemson. He held that position until 1939, when Coach Jess Neely left Clemson for Rice, and Coach Howard was elevated to the position of head coach, a position he held until 1969. During his tenure at Clemson, Coach Howard served as the track and field coach from 1931 to 1939 and as the baseball coach in 1943. But Coach Howard achieved his greatest success on the football field with a record of 165 wins, 118 losses, and 12 ties. He won 2 Southern Conference championships and 6 Atlantic Coast Conference championships. He was named the ACC Coach of the Year in 1958 and again in 1966. Coach Howard retired from coaching following the 1969 season, but remained as Clemson's athletic director until 1971. In 1989, Coach Frank Howard was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Coach Howard is also known for one of college football's greatest traditions. In the early 1960s, a friend brought Coach Howard a rock that he found while driving through Death Valley. Coach Howard used the rock as a doorstop until 1966, when a Clemson booster had the rock mounted on a pedestal and placed on the hill in the east end zone of the stadium. Clemson players began the tradition of rubbing the rock for good luck before entering the stadium. Coach Howard was never one to miss a motivational opportunity. Reportedly told his players, "If you're going to give me 110%, you can rub my rock. If not, keep your hands off of it." Coach Howard's rock has remained on its pedestal in the east end zone ever since. Following the 2021 football season, the prize rock was removed to make way for extensive renovations to the stadium. But I have no doubt that Coach Howard's rock will be returned to its place of honor once those renovations are complete. When Coach Howard retired from Clemson, he continued to be the university's most popular ambassador. For the rest of his life, Coach Frank Howard never missed an opportunity to promote Clemson University. Then on January 26, 1996, the legendary coach known as the Baron of Barlow Bend passed away at the age of 86. Now, let's leave Woodland Cemetery and move about 3 miles down the road to the old stone church. This historic church stands about 3 miles south of Clemson on the side of U.S. Highway 76. It was built over a 5-year period between 1797 and 1802 by John Rusk, who was the father of Texas Senator Thomas Jefferson Rusk. Mr. Rusk used perfectly placed field stones and mortar to construct a building that was home to the Hopewell Presbyterian Church until about 1924. It was then that the congregation moved to a new church in nearby Pendleton, South Carolina. Since then, the old church is still occasionally used for services and is a popular wedding venue. In fact, during my visit, some folks began arriving and setting up for a wedding rehearsal. Before they started, they were kind enough to allow me to have a look around inside and snap a couple of pictures. This old church and the adjacent cemetery were listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1971. There are several veterans of the Revolutionary War buried here, including General Andrew Pickens and several members of his family. So let's walk around the cemetery, see if we can find the grave of General Pickens. The grave of General Pickens and his family was pretty easy to find. The family plot is just inside the cemetery entrance and behind this brick wall. General Andrew Pickens was born on September 13, 1739 in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. As a child, he traveled with his family down the Great Wagon Road through the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. It is believed that the family settled for a short time in Virginia before moving on to South Carolina in about 1752. As an adult, Pickens eventually settled here along the banks of the Seneca River, where he married Rebekah Calhoun, who was a first cousin of Vice President John C. Calhoun. Andrew and Rebekah established Hopewell Plantation, where they raised their family. Over the years, Pickens negotiated several treaties here at Hopewell with the Cherokee, who regarded him as a trusted and honorable man. At the start of the Revolutionary War, Andrew enlisted in the South Carolina militia with the rank of colonel. On February 14, 1779, Colonel Pickens and his 300-man militia defeated the British at the Battle of Kettle Creek. However, a few months later, the British forced Pickens to surrender his fortifications and was captured. Colonel Pickens and his men were paroled under an oath to sit out the war and not raise arms against the British or their allies. A few months after he was paroled, Tory raiders destroyed most of his property. Colonel Pickens informed the British that they had violated the terms of his parole, and he rejoined the war. Over the course of the war, Pickens rose to the rank of general, seeing actions at the Siege of 96 at Augusta and at the Battle of Cowpens. When the war ended, General Pickens entered politics, serving in the South Carolina House of Representatives from 1781 to 1794. He was also elected to the United States House of Representatives. However, he opposed the policies of Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton and served only one term in the Third Congress. Resting beside General Pickens is his wife, Rebekah Calhoun Pickens. She was born on November 18, 1745, near Abbeville, South Carolina. At the age of 15, during a Cherokee raid known as the Lone Creek Massacre, Rebekah narrowly escaped by hiding in the Lone Cane Fields for 3 days. She married General Andrew Pickens on March 19, 1765. General Andrew Pickens died here in the upstate of South Carolina on August 11, 1817. He was 77 years old. Resting in the tomb next to his parents is Andrew Pickens Jr. He served as a colonel during the War of 1812, and he was also elected governor of South Carolina, serving from 1816 to 1818. Governor Pickens' wife, Susan, is resting in the tomb next to the governor. It should also be noted that Governor Pickens' son and General Pickens' grandson, Francis Wilkinson Pickens, was also elected governor of South Carolina, serving from 1860 to 1862. He was governor when the Civil War began at Fort Sumter and when South Carolina became the first state to secede from the Union. He died in 1869 and is buried in Edgefield, South Carolina. Well, this video is getting a little long, so I'm going to end it here at the Old Stone Church in Clemson, South Carolina. I hope you've enjoyed my short visit to Clemson. If you did, I would appreciate a thumbs up. And if this is your first time here, or you haven't already, please consider subscribing. For now, just a reminder, take time and enjoy life's journey. And I'll see you down the road. So long, everyone.